You are driving down the highway. You see the golden arches. And for just a second, your brain does what every brain does. What if I owned that? Think about it. Billions of customers every single year. The most recognized brand on the planet. A line out the door at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, and it all goes into your pocket. It sounds like the ultimate business. Low risk, proven system, passive income forever. Today, we're going to run the actual numbers. No hype, no fluff, just the math. And by the end of this video, you are going to look at those golden arches very differently. Before we even get to the money, let's talk about something nobody mentions when they romanticize ownership. You cannot just walk in and buy one. McDonald's has one of the most selective franchise application processes in the world. We are talking about a multi-year waiting period, extensive background checks, financial audits, and panel interviews. And then, if you pass all of that, you face mandatory training. And not light training either. We are talking about McDonald's own management program, which can take 12 to 24 months to complete. So right out of the gate, before you have spent a single dollar, you have committed up to 2 years of your life. Most people gloss over this part. We will not. Because time is money, and your time has a real cost. All right, you passed the process. Now let's talk about the upfront cost to open a McDonald's franchise. According to McDonald's own disclosures, the total upfront investment ranges from $1.47 million to $2.8 million. We are going to use $2 million as our working number today, which is a reasonable midpoint. Now here's the part that catches people off guard. McDonald's requires you to have $500,000 in liquid, unencumbered cash. That means no loans, no home equity, and no borrowed money. Cold hard, cash only. The remaining $1.5 million, most franchisees finance through a small business loan at roughly 7% interest. 7% on $1.5 million over 10 years is $209,000 per year just in loan payments. You have not made a single burger yet, and you already owe $200,000 a year just to own the thing. Let that sit for a second. Now let's talk about what McDonald's takes next. Here is where the McDonald's business model gets genuinely fascinating. And by fascinating, I mean alarming. Let's say your location does average. The average McDonald's generates about $3.6 million in gross sales. Sounds incredible, right? Not so fast. Before you see a single cent of that, corporate collects its fees. First is a royalty fee of 5% of gross sales, which is $180,000 gone. Second is a national marketing fee of 4%. That is another $144,000 gone. Third, and this is the one people do not expect, McDonald's owns the land and the building. That means you also pay them rent. Rent ranges from 8 to 29% of gross sales. We will use 15% as our midpoint. That is $540,000 per year paid back to McDonald's just for the building. In total, that is $864,000 per year flowing directly back to corporate. That is 24% of gross sales before paying employees, buying beef, or keeping the lights on. Still feeling good about those golden arches. Now let's run the rest of the operating costs. Food costs typically run about 30% of gross sales, which is over $1 million. Labor, including managers and crew, runs roughly 25%, or $900,000. Utilities and maintenance add another 5%, or $180,000. Total operating costs on $3.6 million in sales come to about $3 million, which means your pre-tax operating profit is about $576,000. That sounds pretty good, but remember that bank loan. Subtract $209,000 for annual debt service. Your net annual profit on a $2 million investment is approximately $367,000. Actually, let's be conservative because real-world franchisees deal with slower locations and turnover. Realistic net profit is closer to $150,000 to $200,000 per year. We will use $150,000, which is the honest midpoint. Here is where things get uncomfortable. You have invested $2 million. You are working full-time, and McDonald's requires active operational involvement. This is not passive income, this is a job. And after all of that work, you are netting $150,000 per year. That represents a 7.5% annual return on your $2 million investment. Now, what if instead of buying a franchise, you had taken that same $2 million and put it in an S&P 500 index fund? The S&P 500 has returned an average of 10.5% per year over the last 30 years. On $2 million, that is $210,000 in the first year alone. With 0 employees, 0 debt, 0 royalties, and 0 hamburgers. In year 1, the index fund beats the franchise by $60,000. But compounding is where the story gets interesting. Let's run both scenarios over 10 years. Scenario 1 is investing $2 million in a franchise, netting $150,000 per year. After 10 years, you have made $1.5 million in profit. Your original $2 million is still tied up in the business. But if you sell the franchise and corporate controls the resale process heavily, you might recover $800,000. Total 10-year outcome, $2.3 million on a $2 million investment. That sounds okay. Until you look at scenario 2. You invest $2 million in the S&P 500 compounded annually. After 10 years, your investment is worth $5,430,000. $5.4 million from doing nothing. The gap between the franchise and the index fund after 10 years is over $3 million. $3 million in exchange for 10 years of active work, debt payments, and surrendering your free time. That is the math. Now, before you go cancel your application, let's be fair. The data is not telling you to never buy a franchise. It is telling you that one location is rarely the optimal strategy. Here's where the model actually starts to make mathematical sense. Multi-unit ownership. Once you have mastered the system on your first location, the effort to add a second or third drops significantly. You already have management teams and operations dialed in. You already have your supplier relationships set up. Franchisees with 3 to 5 locations can generate net income of over $1 million per year. At $1 million per year net on $10 million invested, you are at 10%, matching the S&P 500. The break-even point, where the franchise beats passive investing, is approximately 5 to 7 locations run efficiently. There is one more number I want you to think about. We have talked about financial return. But there is a cost here that never shows up on a spreadsheet: active operational involvement. That means your time has a real dollar value. If you are a professional earning $100,000 a year, your time over 10 years is worth $1 million. Add that to the $3.1 million gap, and the true cost of choosing the franchise exceeds $4 million. That is the number your brain was not calculating when you looked at those arches. The data does not hate McDonald's. The data just does not lie. So, what is the verdict? If you want to build wealth, the math overwhelmingly favors the index fund over a single franchise. If you want to build a business and scale to 5 or more locations, the franchise can work. But it is a full-time career, not a passive investment. The golden arches are not a money machine. They are a machine that requires you to be the machine. I am Data-Driven Dollars. We replace the hype with the math. Subscribe if you want more of it. See you in the next one.